Welcome back everybody to my small engine repair channel. Today's video is a continuation in the series on how to service one of these two-stage snow blowers. This one happens to be a John Deere 1130 SE, and what we're going to do today is take a look at the transmission underneath the belly pan under here, and we're going to service that, make sure it's in good working order for the upcoming season. Alright guys, so what I got going on here is I've got the snowblower flipped up in what we call the service position. I just got it flipped up on its lid. I also have a bag underneath the fuel cap just to help prevent any fuel from leaking. You can either do that or drain out the fuel, or if it has little to no fuel in it already, you shouldn't have any issues with that. So the area we're looking at getting into today is up and underneath this belly pan for the transmission for the wheels of this particular machine. So to get this off, first thing you're gonna have to do is take off these 3/8 bolts on either side. So what I've done, guys, is I've actually taken the wheels off just so make it easier access. You could get in here with a wrench and leave the wheels on, but since I already serviced the wheels in a previous video, then these wheels come on and off pretty easily. Alright, so then you just take the cover off, and now we're into the meat and potatoes. Alright guys, so how this transmission works is we have a kind of a pulley here we call a friction disc that actually has a belt that's attached to a pulley which is run off of the engine. Okay, so this pulley is always engaged, and as long as this engine is running, this friction disc is actually moving. Okay, so to get the wheels to actually turn, what we need to do is actually engage the handle up top. So once we engage the handle up top, what you're going to see happen is that this friction disc actually moves. Okay, and what it does is it actually comes in contact with this friction wheel. Okay, this friction wheel then starts spinning. All right, depending on which side, because this disc rotates in a certain direction, so depending on which side of center that this disc is actually touching this wheel will determine whether it's a forward gear or a reverse gear. Also, the further away from the center it goes, the higher the gear will be. Okay, because this thing is going to move faster because the outer edge of this wheel, this friction disc actually spins faster than the center of this friction disc. So as this moves further out, all right, it's going to actually spin faster. As it moves closer to the center, slower, it goes the other side, reverse. And again, same concept, faster the further out. Okay, so then this guy starts spinning because you've engaged it against this disc. Okay, when this starts spinning, as you can see, just by a whole bunch of gears and chains, okay, eventually it rotates the wheels. Okay, so what we need to do for servicing is to make sure that we have good lubrication on our sprockets and our chains. Okay, we also need to have decent lubrication along this shaft, because this friction disc or friction wheel, like I said, moves along that shaft. So what will happen is if we don't have this lubricated properly, this will seize to that shaft, and therefore you will not get any movement. Okay, so that's what we're going to tackle today. The other last thing is that the rubber part of this friction wheel and this disc has to be nice and clean, because they do come in contact. So if there's any sort of grease or lubrication on this rubber, it's just going to spin when we engage it. All right, so this has to be nice and clean. This has to be nice and clean. So that's what we're going to tackle right now. I'll show you how to do it. Alright guys, so first thing we're going to do is to do all the lubrication stuff. So I'm going to lubricate these chains and sprockets. Now you can use like a white lithium grease. I like to use that just because it's a spray bottle and it's a little easier to apply. Or you can use some low temperature grease. So I like to I put the wheel on as well, just so it's easier for me to rotate these sprockets as I'm applying this stuff. Alright, that's one, and then I'll do this one as well right here. So that's done. Now, to lubricate the shaft, what you're going to do is I've already adjusted the transmission lever up top to the 6th gear in the forward position. So that's as far over as it goes. Alright, on that friction disc. So it doesn't even go out to the outer limits or the outer edge on this particular machine. So what you're going to do is just put it all the way to one side, either the forward side or reverse side, and you're going to lubricate the shaft. This one I actually use the low temp grease for. And it's a little bit of a pain in the butt to try and lubricate, to get this lubrication on. Alright, so just want a nice thin film on either side. You can see I kind of got a little bit of grease on that friction wheel, which I don't want. Alright, so I'm gonna get it a little bit on parts that I don't want, and that's why I kind of did this part first. Alright, so a nice thin layer, both sides. Now I'm going to go up and move this friction friction wheel all the way over to the other side as far as it will go. Alright, and that should expose the area that I couldn't get previously where the friction disc was. And this would be the reverse gear, so like I said earlier, it's on the left hand side. Alright, now all I'm going to do is I'm going to exercise that lever back and forth. I'm going to try and wipe up as much of that excess stuff on the areas I don't want it. But we're also going to clean that off so it's nice and clean anyways. I'll show you how to do that in a second. We'll just exercise this back and forth. Okay, and now you can see it's kind of building up a little bit in certain areas. Again, I'll just kind of a nice thin layer, because you don't want to have it gobbed on there and then have it eventually start to fling off there and get it onto that friction disc. So you just want to take off some of that excess that you don't need. Alright, so that's that. The last thing we're going to do is clean this friction wheel and the friction disc. Alright, to clean this friction wheel and the friction disc, what I've done is I just put a little bit of gasoline on one of these shop towels, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it. I'm going to actually clean off this friction disc if there's any rubber on there. Okay, I'm going to move the You see, getting some crap off of there. Get in there and try and clean it off the best I can. Okay, and then to clean the friction wheel, all you're going to do is just put your wet rag on the friction wheel as you're spinning it, and that will clean off this, all the gunk off this wheel if there is any. Okay. Alright, so that's all there is to lubricating and servicing the inside of this transmission area, guys. So hopefully this one was so that's all there is to servicing one of these two-stage snowblowers in the transmission area, guys. All I'm going to do is put the pan back on and put the extra wheel on this side here. Alright guys, so thanks for joining me on this project and this series on how to service one of these two-stage snowblowers. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys, and hopefully you like the format instead of having it all in one video. And that way if somebody just wants to learn how to service the transmission, for instance, they can just go to that particular video. So anyways, it was fun for me wrenching on this thing. It's in really nice shape, so it's time for it to go back to its owner. And once again, hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please show me some love, give me a like down below, and if you're not a subscriber, maybe you can consider doing that as well. So thanks again, and until our next project, take care.